which is now intensively urbanized, is littered, it's foul, its carrying capacity is violated. We've invited a lot of unwanted, how would I say, we are struggling to deal with the menace of drugs. We are struggling to halt acculturation, cultural dilution, right? And at the end of the day, the benefits that accrue from mass tourism probably do not go back to the grassroots. And I think that's where you draw a line. That's where you try to put ecotourism apart from mass tourism by suggesting that in ecotourism the focus shall be on local communities and local resources. And the focus is not on your comfort. It's rather on your experiences. It's on the interface with learning. It's got to do with culture. It's got to do with the local customs and practices. It's got to do with minimizing use of resources. You know what I'm saying. There are probably in the books you would have read. There are synonyms, several synonyms. You call it soft tourism. You call it green tourism. You call it sustainable tourism. You call it eco-tourism. You call it nature tourism. There are umpteen names, but at the end of it, what is the essence of ecotourism? Very unfortunately, we know today the prefix eco is largely aimed at greening enterprises. You have green refrigerators, you have green air conditioners, you have green lawyers. A lot of people, kind of come across as green whatever. What's meant to be green? Green ought to have been a sound understanding of the ecology and the fact that we are interconnected and that we depend. And anything that is done to violate that harmony is going to trigger a repercussion. And that repercussion would question the very existence of that enterprise on which you depend. For instance, if you violate the carrying capacity of any enterprise, and we all complain, right? Recently, we've had our politicians who came up very harsh. So, scum of the earth. You would have read this without naming anybody, right? You would have heard about this. Now, that's the perception that somebody gets vis-a-vis the kind of tourists we receive, which has got to do with the way we manage our tourism, which has got to do with the resources available, right? So, when do you look at something as unwanted or the scum of the earth or something which is not acceptable? And that reminds me, in ecotourism, there are a few important elements. It's not just got to do with the 7. Top of the list, for any ecotourism venture to be successful, you would have to take into account the geography of the place, the natural resource endowments of the place. Number 3, limit of acceptable change. I think probably as students of ecotourism, you would have known what is meant by limits of acceptable change. And there is this great issue about carrying capacity, not only of the resource which invites the tourism or on which your tourism enterprise operates, but also visitors' carrying capacity. I think more often than not, we only stuck up with the carrying capacity of the resources. What about the tourists? There is a density maxima, so to say, beyond which any further increase, even by one individual, will give you that discomfort. And I'll just give you a case in point. I'm not going to follow the slides. Let me just go a little extempore. Today I am told, Dr. Kamar, in Kumbarsav Canal, there is a class of tourists who are not happy looking at the crocodiles. They want to see crocodiles in movement. Right? That is the expected. They say, "Are we 1,500-2,000 rupees better take the Khuriji asa okay, look at that." But to talk he wants to assure his clientele that this is something genuine. So he goes and takes his oar and starts, prodding that poor reptile to the point of irritating that reptile. And mind you, most of the vertebrates, I don't like the word lower vertebrates, but that's how we call them, right? This sort of hierarchy is only in the mind. Who decides who's lower and who's higher, right? But once the crocodile, associates these disturbances in the habitat with repulsion, it invariably will give up on its site fidelity. It may never surface again, at least at that point. So this realization that you are actually killing the goose that lays the golden eggs is something that should, sink in the operators should also sink in the people who have this kind of unreasonable expectations about ecotourism. You want to see a moving crocodile, you want to see a running crocodile. So, that's what I say. Limits or acceptable change. How much do you alter in terms of the infrastructure that has to be put in terms of accessing that resource? Your conduct, very important, the do's and don'ts. Mind you, we always have impressions about any place that we visit. Right? When you visit a place and you come back, this is good, this is bad, this is mediocre, this is alright, it's not so great. Probably it would have been nicer had this to have been there, right? And you have this desire.